Good morning. First of all, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to the elders, past and present. And thank you, Holger, for the opportunity to present today. I'm a relatively new appointment to the Tasmanian School of Business. And so this was a lovely opportunity for me to actually have a bit of a snoop and sticky beak in the business of my colleagues to find out what it is that they do. The Tasmanian School of Business is organized around different disciplinary areas of accounting, economics, and finance, which also consists of a group of environmental and resource economists, a group of 5, which is a potential point of engagement, a management group which has an interest in agribusiness across and is relevant for this particular forum, marketing and health management. I'm going to organize my talk today around products, soils, and water, as these were the themes which came up across the projects which I identified as being potentially of interest to this group. Okay. The researchers that I contacted across this school are engaging really with a really wide range of topics with other agencies, universities, and peak bodies, as well as NGOs. So I thought maybe what I could do is provide you kind of with a taster menu of the different kinds of projects that are going on. Many of them are quite small, what I can do is probably highlight a few of the researchers that are involved and, give a shout out to them to get in contact with them. All right. One of the really cool projects that I located is a collaborative type of project with Gemma Lewis, who's a researcher in management, and Dr. Fiona Keslick, work on Pinot Noir, provenance, and traceability. And the purpose of this project was to generate clear descriptors of Australian Pinot Noir styles, and to be able to think about what types of regional variations and traits really matter. And of course, as an economist, I begin to think about the willingness to pay for those products' characteristics. Wine producers are going to need to charge a premium for that, and what will the market in fact support? That's a bit of my extension on there as an economist, thinking about how this kind of research on understanding the product could move forward in thinking about how to charge for the magic associated with climate, soil, and terrain and terroir. Another project that I identified was one on climate change, which of course is a burning issue for us. Climate change and the food value chain adaptation project. This was a collaboration amongst research institutes, the CSIRO, UTAS, and agencies. And it was consumers, some of the interesting findings around this project is that climate change presents a number of opportunities as well as challenges, and consumers are not simply going to accept adaptations in the products that are being produced because we tell them about it. In agribusiness, there's an opportunity not only for the adaptation benefits, but also around greenhouse gas mitigation. And so this project was looking at some of the qualitative methods that could be used to investigate a number of really interesting questions around the value chain. Another project that I saw, and this might be of interest, is around just a simple proof of concept project on the potential export related to King Island branded wallaby meat. And this was an engagement with Dipipwi. And the researchers on this project began with some very simple questions around the acceptability of the product, looking, for instance, at how you might translate the word wallaby, and looking at how you might get around that translation issue of wallaby being, when translated into Chinese, is associated with rat. How you might think through some of these marketing issues, but also thinking about the product characteristics and how that might be incorporated in Asian cuisine. Another project that emerged is some cross-disciplinary grants. This is where I really came to understand that I'm hanging out with the wrong sort of people, the economists, whereas I should be hanging out with the marketers and managers. They're looking at, for instance, the emergence of the Tasmanian whiskey industry and the initiation of the Launceston-based nonprofit Ferment Tasmania, and tracking their development and the success stories around these. Okay. Another moment where I realized I've really got to hang out with the folks on other floors of my building is when I found out that people are looking at tourism and the beer industry. And for instance, in the UK, people taste beer that they like on holidays, and then they, ask their local retailers to actually bring this product in. Now, some of the researchers looking at this suggest that there's a great role potentially in Tasmania in the craft drink business, that they're in a great position to take advantage of it. In particular, people are interested in the kinds of genuine stories associated with craft production. And of course, the economist in me again sings out about the willingness to pay for the experience and the characteristics of the product. Okay. All right, so I've been talking about past projects. I thought, I better talk about some of the new things that we're doing. So we've started engaging the business school with TIA and other universities across the country to look at soil stewardship as part of the soil CRC. And a new project that we've been engaging on is around consumer demand, the value chain, and some communication strategies. Soil stewardship is certainly not new. The science on it is advancing, but our understanding of how consumers might engage on this topic is really minimal. So one of our first steps is to actually assess and think about what consumers actually know about soil and soil management. That by itself is a problem. And then trying to develop and trial different kinds of communication materials. What will people understand in terms of products, labeling, logos, certification, and again, what is their willingness to pay for these kinds of benefits? How can we internalize those broader benefits in the purchase price? Another project as part of the CRC that my colleagues are engaging with is around best practice, the adoption of best practice, and I'll sing out to Vaughn and Pete Leith if you're about the place. This is one of their projects, and it will be using some qualitative research approaches to really get a handle on what some of the social and institutional factors are that might influence adoption of different types of soil management practice. Okay. And just going back to some work that we've been engaging on, we've done a pretty comprehensive scoping study to look at the relationship between land prices and soil characteristics, soil management practices, and what we could potentially be looking at for resale markets of agricultural land. Is there a real willingness to pay in real estate markets for good soil stewardship? That's going to take a lot of work to really unpack, because soil science and economics are quite different scales of measurement. Okay, moving on. I'll point in the direction, especially as we're in this region, some work by John Tisdall around bioeconomic modeling of water use for the Tasmanian Midlands. This kind of work is pretty close to my heart as an economist working in water. This modeling technique allows you to sort of combine some of the ecology and hydrology with the economics around irrigation and to see the impacts across a regional economy. Okay. And finally, a lot of my work has been based in environmental values, and in the face of climate change, it's particularly important to get the institutional setting right around property rights and water trading. I worked in the Marlee-Darling Basin for a decade or more, and worked around the environmental values associated with the Marlee-Darling Basin, in particular the iconic river systems and environmental assets. And a lot of my work was used as a part of the evidence base around the water sharing plan. However, the importance of getting these decisions right is really, hopefully is one of the big take-home messages from our experience in the Marlee-Darling Basin about how absolutely vital it is to get the science right around the hydrology and the ecology, because the investment decisions that are being made are people's livelihoods. And on that, well, this is why economists are said to be from a dismal science. But if we can take some of those lessons from the Marlee-Darling Basin and get it right in our irrigation systems, there are, immense opportunities associated with getting the economics of water right. Thanks.